Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Vargas.
And I'm David Muir. Tonight, millions of Americans, of course, are still talking about it, election night in America, still feeling it. It is a triumph for millions who believe they have finally been heard. But there is also profound soul-searching for millions as well, asking, how did this happen? Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote, but what cannot be disputed, a decisive win in the Electoral College for Donald Trump.
And late this week, that moment, the president and the president-elect, the first step on a long road toward healing. We are in uncharted political territory with tens of thousands of people taking to the streets to protest after one of the most divisive campaigns in our history. So, what drives this man, and how will it shape his presidency? Here's Tom Llamas.
In 70 days, Donald Trump will have a new job.
I very much look forward to dealing with the president.
And a new home, trading 3 floors of his glittering Versailles-inspired penthouse for the slightly more staid corridors of the White House.
I am looking around this room. The White House might be a step down.
The White House is the White House. It's just a spectacular place. And, you know, it's something that represents something very special.
Lara Trump is married to Donald's son, Eric.
Will they totally redecorate the White House to look like Trump Tower? They have.
They'll make things how they like them, comfortable, but very nice and well done and tasteful. They're not going to be knocking down any walls.
So, how did he get there?
We're going to get to work immediately for the American people.
Even his close friends, like billionaire real estate tycoon Richard Lafrac, never saw it coming.
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm astonished. I'm more than surprised. But he gets the ball down the field. He's going to put it in the end zone and score a touchdown. That's the way he is.
I love this country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's a story that begins about 15 miles away from his victory party 70 years ago in Jamaica Estates, a wealthy neighborhood in Queens, New York.
You can't understand Donald without looking at his childhood.
Donald J. Trump lived in this ornate home, the 4th of 5 children.
He did not grow up as a middle-class kid. The family had chauffeurs. He was taken to school in a limousine. He never had to work regular jobs.
He described his mother, Mary, a Scottish immigrant, as the perfect housewife. His father, Fred, was a millionaire real estate developer. The Trump patriarch has been described as a human machine, driven.
His father was, he was a demanding guy, and he did very much push Donald, and Donald, in some ways, was the chosen son.
That ambition was unmistakably prevalent in young Donald's DNA.
Donald, I think, was more than a troublemaker. He was a profound brat. He has said that he punched his teachers when he didn't like what he was being told to do.
In need of discipline, young Donald was shipped off to New York Military Academy.
Once he came under the control of the staff at the school, he wanted to excel. He had to be first at everything, even if it was just to get first in line at the cafeteria.
Just last year, Trump told ABC's Barbara Walters about his dreams at that time in his life.
What was your fantasy when you were very young?
To be a baseball player. I was a great baseball player.
What position?
First base, catcher, first base. But in those days, you got paid $2, right?
And that's not for Donald Trump.
I mean, no. But my other fantasy as I got older was to do movies. I wanted to be a movie maker.
Do you think his father had any role in him not pursuing that career in show business?
I think there was no way Donald wasn't inevitably going to become a real estate developer. He's still fascinated by stardom. I think that was one of the things that stood out for me the most, was this cinematic sense he has of himself. He identifies strongly with Orson Welles and Citizen Kane.
Until a few weeks ago, I had no hope of being elected.
But at the end of the day, his father exerted a pretty inescapable pull on him to come back to the family business.
He accompanied his father to sites all over New York's outer boroughs, where Fred Trump was building middle and low-income housing.
And I started off making little deals in Brooklyn and Queens with my father, and they seemed to work out.
And then with a loan from Dad, Donald Trump struck out on his own.
I think the rules that Fred Trump taught his son Donald began with, you must be a winner. So this is a person who plays hard and wants to win, and if that means setting the rules himself, he'll set the rules himself and then try to get everyone else to play by them.
Those rules would have devastating consequences for Donald's brother Fred Jr. He drank heavily and died of heart failure at the age of 43.
I think Fred would have been very happy if he didn't have to compete. He had to compete because of the environment. He had to compete. And it ultimately ended up destroying him, and it was very sad, very sad. And ultimately, it was alcohol that just decimated him. And I'm glad I'm not a drinker. I mean, I've never had a drink in my life.
Younger brother Robert, who worked for Donald later in life, learned what older brother Donald was like at an early age.
Robert had a set of blocks, and I had a set of blocks, and I asked Robert if I could have his blocks, and I built a beautiful, tall block building, and then I said I like it so much that I glued it together, and then Robert couldn't have his block. So I don't know, somehow that story is a story that a lot of people have asked me about. I don't know.
What do you think it says?
Well, it says, I think that just, even at a young age, I wasn't so much different than I am now. I don't know.
You had to get what you wanted, even if it was somebody else's blocks.
Well, that's the old story, isn't it, huh?
Richard Lafrac has been friends with Donald Trump for nearly half a century. He says the man he knows is not that different from the boy gluing his brother's confiscated blocks.
The drive, the determination, this kind of boundless energy that he has, that's always been Donald. He loves to accomplish things.
We have to get it finished and get it started.
And he loves to be complimented for his achievements.
Hello, Lynn Patton speaking.
His longtime staffer, Lynn Patton, says the serial Twitter user is quite old-fashioned, at least when it comes to technology.
It took us a while to wean him from a flip phone to his smartphone. Mr. Trump runs things his way, and it certainly works for him. So, you know, they say don't fix it if it ain't broke.
There is no such thing as an email from Donald Trump. That does not exist. Never seen him with a computer. But he does take the time to write very nice handwritten notes. Donald never wants to curl up with a book. Donald likes activity, he likes people.
What words would you use to describe Donald Trump?
I've always had great imagination. I've had great success with money. I've actually gotten along well with people over the years.
You have said that one of the most important aspects in your personality is winning. Why winning? What about it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game?
I like winning better. Look, we have to win.
Trump says another part of the formula for success is not revealing your weaknesses.
What is your greatest fear?
Well, I don't want to reveal fears, because if I reveal fears, I'm giving up something. You know, we all have certain fears, and everybody has fears, but I don't like revealing my fears.
Being non-conventional is part of his playbook.
My name's Donald Trump, and I'm the largest real estate developer in New York.
Next, after extending his footprint on land, he conquered the air, television.
You want to be in the presence of Donald J. Trump, you cannot be weak. You got to be tough, and you got to be able to take it.
You're fired. You're fired. You're all fired. All four are fired.
Stay with us. Before he was president-elect, Donald Trump was the king of the Big Apple.
My name's Donald Trump, and I'm the largest real estate developer in New York.
And 30 years ago, he bypassed the city's signature yellow taxis for this $10 million French Air L'Especial helicopter. He took Barbara Walters for a ride.
What do you feel like when you look at that wonderful skyline?
Well, I look at that skyline, Barbara, and I really say it's the greatest in the world. I'd really like to buy everything if that were possible.
A real estate tycoon overlooking his empire, salivating at the possibilities. Nothing seemed too sacred. Almost.
And what about Central Park?
No, I think Donald Trump should not be allowed to touch Central Park.
He's a man with few limits, never following the real estate rules. He shocked many when he negotiated a 40-year tax abatement for this hotel.
People would say, how did you get 40 years? I said, because I didn't ask for 50. It was so easy.
But then he erected what's now become a monument of sorts, the first building to bear his name, Trump Tower. Many call it his greatest triumph. Trump calls it home. For now, a 30,000 square foot penthouse, 3 levels of over-the-top decor, dripping in gold, a fountain in the living room, and ceilings painted with scenes from Greek mythology.
The tile on the bathroom floor, he said, had come from a mine somewhere in deepest, darkest Africa.
Soon, those signature buildings began popping up all over the Big Apple, and later, across the country. Now there's even one in Istanbul, all brandishing his name, Trump. Though now, because of the things he said during his campaign, some residents of buildings that bear his name want out.
That man, we have found, does not represent our values.
Some, like broadcaster Keith Olbermann, sold and moved away.
I couldn't go under the sign anymore that said Trump Palace without spitting, because and I ran out of spit.
What do you think the Trump brand stands for?
The epitome of luxury.
If I asked you to name another condo builder, you couldn't do it.
Donald Trump went all in on Atlantic City, opening several casinos, a huge gamble.
Did you know anything about the gaming industry?
I knew the numbers, I knew the economics.
And the numbers were staggering. By the late 80s, he says his 3 casinos were making $15 million a week. Trump hit the jackpot by luring celebrities to the gambling mecca. Chief among them, Michael Jackson, Mike Tyson, and Hulk Hogan.
Thank God Donald Trump's a Hulkamaniac!
That relentless desire to win made his name a modern synonym for success and celebrity in his own right, authoring best-selling books, making cameos in movies.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
On television.
Look, I tell you what, you want another 50 grand, I cut the grass for you every Saturday.
Even commercials.
We eat our pizza the wrong way.
Crust first.
If flaunting it was the game, Trump was the name.
My new game is Trump, the game.
Because it's not whether you win or lose, it's whether you win.
He continued to win not only by being a businessman, but as being a business himself. The name Trump is such a brand for success that it has been licensed on an astonishing range of products.
Trump Model Management.
What does this guy not have his name on?
The reason my real estate is successful is they know if I put the name Trump on it, it's going to be the best.
But in the 90s, his fiery mix of hubris and vision caused him to win and lose fortunes. When a casino analyst made this prediction about the Trump Taj Mahal,
when December and January roll around, you could see business drop off 30 or 40%.
He learned firsthand what kind of trouble challenging Trump's numbers can get you. Trump threatened to sue, and the analyst was fired.
You gonna fight it to the bitter end?
I always fight to the bitter end, don't I?
In the end, he was forced to fold the Trump Taj Mahal casino, resulting in job losses, and his commercial airline, Trump Shuttle, grounded.
I was at the highest of all pedestals, the hottest in the country. Everything I touched turned to gold. And then one day, the pedestal was knocked out from under me.
Midas had lost his touch. Donald Trump's businesses filed for bankruptcy twice. He explained his financial woes to us in 1994.
I had billions of dollars of debt, in excess of $5 billion. I had $975 million worth of personal debt.
Despite the losses and 2 more corporate bankruptcies, Trump continued to promote a picture of profits and power.
I fought back, and I won.
Now my company's bigger than it ever was. It's stronger than it ever was.
Tim O'Brien, who wrote a biography on Trump, says his specialty wasn't building, but branding.
What he essentially has been is a robust branding and marketing operation and an incredible self-promoter. He's essentially a human shingle.
What are you worth?
Well, that's always a question I hate to answer because it's like, who cares?
I know, but I love to. I care. I really care.
Forbes magazine says I'm worth a lot. Would I say that I'm worth $5 billion?
$5 billion.
I would say I'm worth more than $5 billion, but it's irrelevant.
That year, Forbes estimated his worth at only $2.5 billion. But the actual number, the American public has no idea. Remember, he refused to release his tax returns.
So you've got to ask yourself, why won't he release his tax returns? Maybe he's not as rich as he says he is.
But back in 2004, Donald Trump took another risk, something few celebrities of his caliber had ever tried. A reality TV show about himself and the cutthroat business world, the search for his apprentice.
I'm here to see Donald Trump.
The risk paid huge dividends. 20 million people watched him grill young Trump wannabes in the boardroom every week.
I didn't come here to make friends.
Omarosa Manigault, now a senior advisor to the Donald Trump campaign, was a contestant on the show.
What was your first impression the first time you saw him up close?
So the first time Donald walked into the boardroom, he took one of those infamous Donald Trump breaths, like,
hello, everybody.
Okay, folks. You know? I literally almost laughed because it was like a caricature of the person.
Then you realize that's the way he is.
He goes, what's your story? He doesn't ease into it. He was just immediately.
Yeah. Don't waste time.
And if you did or screwed up, you heard that infamous phrase.
You're fired.
When we come back, we go from the boardroom to the bedroom. Donald Trump's private life. The father, the husband, the playboy.
Look this way, Lisa.
Next.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a city with a rich beer history, but a place where Archie Cabello has something else brewing.
I think he's a very cunning individual.
General impression of Archie was a guy who showed up on time, went out on route every day, drove his route, but there wasn't a lot memorable about the guy.
In 1995, he's grinding it out as a truck driver, making about $6 an hour. 48 years old with bills to pay, 2 kids and a wife to support. That's her, a chain smoker puffing away. They've been together since she was a teenager.
One thing was really clear, he loves his wife.
Archie also loves money, but he hates to work, according to veteran journalist Brian Denson.
Archie would have been great if he'd just gone to college, if he'd had some means growing up to go to college, because he's a smart guy.
Smart enough to figure out a shortcut to a much more lucrative career path. You see, Archie doesn't just drive any truck. He drives an armored truck stuffed with cash. You've seen them double parked as they deliver their precious cargo to stores, banks, and ATM machines. Cold, hard cash. Easy money, if you can get to it. These things are Fort Knox on wheels. Tell me about Archie.
What do you want to know?
That's FBI Special Agent Ken O'Connor, an expert in armored car robberies, and Archie Cabello.
I was fortunate that I've done cases like this before.
It was his job to piece together the Cabello capers years after the fact. But is this the kind of case everybody else likes to avoid? Kind of a clunker?
For a person that wants to be on that kind of squad, this is not the case they're dying to do. So for me, it was just, all right, let's just get it done.
With his help, we retraced Archie's steps on the day he was due to deliver cash and coin to banks and businesses all over Milwaukee.
The 2 people he was assigned with were, one had been there on the job for a week, the other had been on the job for 2 weeks, so he was the senior guy.
The inexperience of those co-workers plays a key role here because they take orders from Archie, no questions asked. What they don't know is that somebody else is also watching their armored truck. Every day at a predetermined time, a woman leaves her job at a local cafe, gets into her ordinary car, goes for a drive, and then parks. Every day she watches the armored truck. Once it passes, they go their separate ways. Same routine, day after day after day. But today, it's going to be different. Today, when the armored truck reaches the corner, the truck driver, Archie, hits the hazard lights. And as he turns right, the woman in the car follows him. The truck continues doing its scheduled round of pickups and deliveries, and around midday, it pulls into this strip mall.
They make a stop at First Star National Bank.
Cabello, a former Marine, is armed with a gun that he certainly knows how to use, but he doesn't need to use it. His weapon of choice today, a ballpoint pen.
He's on paperwork showing he signed for the bag at 12:30 p.m. Bag had about $157,800, give or take.
Give or take, Archie will always choose take. Out in a matter of minutes, the crew puts the money safely in the truck. It's now break time.
He ditched the other 2 people for a break or bathroom break.
All he needs is a few quick minutes alone with his thoughts and all that money. He pulls around back, and there he meets up with the car that's been quietly tracking his every move. Archie takes that bag of cash he's just picked out of First Star Bank and makes a rather unusual deposit.
Her open window onto the passenger side seat, and they both drove off.
Archie loops back around and waits for the crew to come off their break. Once in the truck, the trio resumes their work, none the wiser that their load has been lightened by more than $100,000.
It's cheeky. He's a cheeky guy. But I think like a lot of folks who make the bulk of their money illegally, Archie decided that he could be cheeky.
Meanwhile, the driver of the car is transferring the cash out of the bank bag and into another carry-on, soon to be stashed away. Obviously, at the end of the day, Archie is going to have some explaining to do.
So he just said, oops.
I got lost in the shuffle somehow.
Pretty big thing to get lost in the shuffle, $157,000?
Exactly.
That's right. When his bosses ask, where's the money? Archie's response is as simple as, I don't know. He gets an unintended assist from his coworkers. The crew isn't saying much either, primarily because they don't know much.
What was the story that they told?
They, of course, denied taking the bag. One of them took a polygraph and passed. The other one didn't take a polygraph. Archie didn't take a polygraph.
Archie's plan has worked to perfection. He got the money, and he got it with guile instead of a gun. His bosses suspect he was involved, but they can't prove it.
How is it that he wasn't busted then? I mean, that's a pretty lame excuse.
At that time, there wasn't a lot of evidence other than his story.
Archie gets fired, losing his $30,000 a year job, but in one day, he's taken home 5 times his annual wages, so he'll get over it.
Nobody got charged in that case.
The dirty secret? To some extent, armored car companies expect the occasional big loss. It's part of the cost of doing business.
A situation like that, your insurance company is going to cover the hit.
To Archie's way of thinking, that makes this almost a victimless crime. And when he gets home, he doesn't even have to explain himself to the missus. Turns out the woman in that unmarked car was none other than Marion Cabello, Archie's wife, his partner in crime. Their luck may not last a lifetime, but not to worry. Archie's gotten a taste for the action, and he's just getting started. This family business up and running and about to expand. At age 23, Vincent Cabello, Archie's son, is an Army paratrooper stationed at Fort Bragg. But this is nothing compared to the fall from grace he's about to take. After an honorable discharge, Vincent returns home to Wisconsin in 1996. He served his country proud, but could not seem to make his dad proud. So when Archie concocts a plan for father and son to steal money together, Vincent agrees, apparently in a misguided effort to win his father's affection.
And Dad dragged him into the family business.
Yes. He, in a weird way, worshipped his father and fell into that life.
But Vincent wasn't some teenager. He was a grown man, just out of the service, right?
It's true, he was. But I think that he struggled to find acceptance from his father.
Archie is not exactly Employee of the Year material after the armored car heist. Prosecutors say he often reverts to self-employed status, selling drugs to earn money. That is, when he's not watching his favorite movie, Thief.
I wear $800 suits. I wear a gold watch. I wear a perfect D, flawless, 3-carat ring. I'm a thief.
But Vincent isn't. He's an American hero.
When Archie told him that he needed Vincent's help to be the inside man for the next job that they would do. Ever after, Vincent was trapped in this cycle.
Archie circles jobs in the newspaper for Vincent to apply for. The focus on banks and casinos and other places with lots of cash on hand. Largely due to his military background, he eventually lands a job at the American Security Corporation, guarding the night vault in the basement of this commercial building. The stage set for Cabello Caper number 2. This time, Archie is the outside man, Vincent the inside man.
The plan they came up with was Archie would stage a robbery. He would act like a robber from beginning to end.
The basement vault can be seen from the street level, and night after night, Archie wanders by, waiting to make eye contact with his son down below. One night in July, they do see things eye to eye. Vincent gives the signal, and the plan goes into motion.
When he got the signal, he went to his car, which was parked in the alley behind the building, and he got in his gear.
The gear includes a disguise, a bushy beard, and a baseball cap worn backwards, yellow-tinted glasses, and a BB gun.
And went into the through the receiving area down a long hallway.
He travels down this back alley and enters through a rear door. It's a long, winding, and unmarked corridor that leads to a doorway with just a small sign of the company inside. Vincent had earlier closed the vault door like he was supposed to, but purposely not spun the dial to lock it.
If he had truly locked it, nobody would have been able to get in because the way the security was set up was certain people had the first half of the combo on the spin dial and certain people had the second half, and he only had one half.
The charade begins. Archie yells freeze, and Vincent willingly complies. The two of them performing for the cameras.
They knew about the video surveillance in the vault area. Vincent told his father where it was located.
The FBI says Archie took that video cassette, so there's no surveillance footage of the crime, but they acted it out anyway as a precaution, just in case there were other cameras they didn't know about. So they acted the whole thing out.
From beginning to end, it was literally
stick them up.
Exactly.
Son is hand and leg cuffed before father makes his way inside the vault, stuffs the money into a bag, and makes his getaway.
It was a lot of money. I was a new detective.
Milwaukee Police Detective Ron Laura was one of the first to respond the next morning when Vincent is found handcuffed near the vault.
He said this subject threatened to blow his head off.
But as he presses Vincent for details, the story doesn't add up.
I was a little skeptical of why he wasn't a little bit more shaken up.
The detective strongly suspects it was an inside job, especially when he sees the getaway route, that winding corridor.
They would have went through this door to the freight elevator to make their way to the first floor to exit the building. Once I found out that the person utilized this hallway to escape, right away I said somebody who had knowledge of the building had to be involved in this.
Police detain Vincent, but he sticks to his story and doesn't crack, like father, like son.
And secrecy was the key to the overall conspiracy. Secrecy and keeping it tight within the family.
Go.
Granted, the Cabello family crimes aren't exactly Ocean's 11.
With $160 million behind this door. Let's get him out. Yeah.
But the money's beginning to add up, and just like the armored car heist, what police suspect and what they can prove turn out to be two different things.
In these cases, they're hard to prove. With Vincent standing to his story, we had no probable cause to arrest him.
In this robbery alone, $730,000 vanished without a trace, and no one was ever charged.
Archie and Vincent took advantage of weak procedures at each of these companies, and they exploited them. And, you know, the money's clearly out there somewhere.
But where'd the money go? It's a question that haunts the FBI, who suspect the Cabellos, but the family seems to be living paycheck to paycheck. 1 year after the robbery, the felonious family pulls up stakes and quietly leaves Milwaukee for Portland, Oregon. So at this point, 2 robberies, almost $1 million, 900,000, give or take?
Yes.
But it's not time for retirement yet. No time for retirement,